The News 4 Rundown starts now.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the News 4 Rundown. I'm Un Yang. It's Monday, July 13th. Here's a look at some of the stories we're following for you tonight. Coming up, a quick-spreading parasite has made its way into our region. How it got here and the common food items you should be thinking about avoiding and how to know if you've been infected. Plus, the leaders of Lyft, Uber, and Tesla all in the district today as the D.C. Council weighs whether or not to approve the use of self-driving taxis in the district. What people on both sides of the issue have to say about the proposed plan. Then, a movie star has landed here in the DMV. We will introduce you to Tilly the octopus and tell you what favorite food she has in common with many Marylanders. But first, we're tracking new developments across the nation's capital, ranging from replacing political mainstays to the latest on the president's remodeling of D.C. landmarks. Tonight, we're learning more about the repairs at the reflecting pool, a closer look at what's being done there to fix the pool after reports of alleged vandalism. We're also hearing from a federal judge in Florida who says the Trump administration brought forward a lawsuit against the IRS in bad faith. We'll talk about the ramifications this could have. But let's begin with the sudden passing of South Carolina Senator Lindsey Graham. He was up for re-election this November. Now the Republican Party races to fill his seat. Joining us tonight to discuss all of these moving parts is NBC News legal affairs reporter Gary Grumbach. Gary, thanks for joining us. A busy weekend and a start to the work week. Let's begin with this surprise. South Carolina's governor choosing Lindsey Graham's sister to temporarily fill his seat for the rest of his term that ends in January. What can you tell us about her background and the Republicans' plan for a nominee this fall?
Yeah, Darlene Graham-Nardone has played such an incredibly important role in the life of Lindsey Graham and vice versa. Graham actually considered her his legal guardian when their parents died when they were both very young. He was 22 years old. She was 13 years old at the time. So he brought her on as his legal guardian and really raised her into the woman she is today. And she, of course, did pay that back in terms of helping out with his political career. She appeared in campaign ads for him over the years. She even held Lindsey Graham's Bible when he was being sworn in to the United States Senate by President Biden. And so there was a lot of support there between the two of them. Of course, she may not fully run for the full term. She's only going to serve out the remainder of Lindsey Graham's term, which ends in the beginning of January. But there is a roster of people in South Carolina politics that are very eager to get that role should it become available to them in November.
Indeed, and we know she was the president's pick. Let's turn to the $10 billion lawsuit the Trump administration brought against the IRS and the Treasury, claiming the agencies failed to prevent the president's tax returns from being leaked. A federal judge ruled today the lawsuit was brought in bad faith for an improper purpose. Gary, what more can you tell us about that? And can any members of this administration face any penalties here?
They absolutely can, and they actually are. But in terms of what this lawsuit was, remember, this was because of an IRS settlement that had come about with that weaponization fund. And so the president had sued the IRS for an issue that happened years ago related to the release of his tax returns to members of the media. And then they said they came up with a settlement before they actually had to even argue this case out. The judge today saying the lawsuit was brought for an improper purpose, saying it was done in bad faith, and it was done not to vindicate rights, but done for a wrong and improper purpose to manipulate the judicial process. That's what she said in this order. And she's also putting sanctions on the president's personal attorney, and as well as some of the other attorneys that were involved in this. They've gotten all bar referrals to the Florida bar, to the New York bar, and to the Washington, D.C. bar. If you are a lawyer, you know what that means. It is very significant, and it could actually hurt your ability to practice in those areas. So a very serious ruling from this judge in Florida today. Yeah.
Interesting, Gary. Okay, finally, like Groundhog Day here, the reflecting pool being drained again after reports of tampering to the pool's lining. So you and your team were at the reflecting pool as this whole process has begun again. What did you see? What more can you tell us?
So the reflecting pool is being drained again to fix that lining because President Trump has said over and over again there were vandals that he says has ripped up the lining. He says there was a 250-foot gash. Sometimes he calls it 300 feet. Sometimes he calls it 350 feet. Our team was down there at the reflecting pool today. Of course, it is surrounded by fencing, so we were several feet back. But what they could see was no gash of any size. What they could see was debris. They could see bird feathers. They could see sediment from the water in terms of the dead algae that has grown and is sitting there on the bottom of the reflecting pool. We were told from a sign that was posted on the fencing that the reflecting pool will be back open. The fencing will be down by August 10th. So that's about a month from today. So this is a real long process to get the reflecting pool back up and open. Of course, this is one of the many projects that President Trump has been interested in fixing and renovating across Washington, D.C.
Yes, and we're going to wait to see what's going to happen to the color of the pool. It was blue, and then the algae came through, right, Gary?
Yes, that's right. It was American flag blue. Then it turned a bit of an algae green. And so they're certainly going to make it back and try to make it back towards an American flag blue color. I think that is certainly the goal. And they do plan to use the same company to do that. They do plan to use the company that had gotten millions of dollars in government contracts for that project. All
right, we'll have to see when it reopens on August 10th. Gary Grumbach, NBC News legal affairs reporter, thanks so much for joining us tonight. Let's get to some of the other top stories in our region tonight. A man is in custody after police say he brought a gun onto Capitol grounds this morning. U.S. Capitol Police say 67-year-old Wendell Royster from Columbia, Mississippi, drove up to the north barricade at the Capitol and asked for directions to the Supreme Court. The officer manning the barricade spotted a handgun in Royster's lap. Royster was arrested without incident. He also had a dog in the car. That dog is now in the custody of animal control. D.C. police are still unclear on what led up to a 13-year-old boy being shot and killed over the weekend. It happened Saturday night on Rosedale Street Northeast. Ahmad Mims was found on the sidewalk, a door down from where the shooting happened. Officers tell News 4 it is unclear if the teen ran out of the house after he was shot or if someone carried him out. 3 people are dead after a horrific crash Sunday morning in Prince George's County. A motorcycle and a Tesla operating as a rideshare collided on Crane Highway in Upper Marlboro. Neighbors in the area have been fighting for a traffic light to help avoid crashes like this one for years. The State Highway Administration tells News 4 the design for a traffic signal at the Route 301 left turn lane is 90% complete, and construction is set to begin by the end of this year. We are still waiting to learn the identity of a man killed over the weekend by police in Montgomery County. The county police say the shooting happened near a bus stop next to Montgomery Village Plaza. Police say they were not able to confirm how many officers fired their weapons or how many rounds were fired. There is an investigation underway into what led the officers to fire their guns. An outbreak of diarrhea caused by a parasite called Cyclospora in produce has risen to more than 4,000 cases, and the FDA and CDC have still not determined a source. As you can imagine, this is causing a lot of concern with all of us. Our consumer reporter, Susan Hogan, has been on the story since it broke and is joining us now with your question. Susan, so many people are really worried about this. Should we stop eating produce altogether, though?
Well, here's the thing. I haven't, right? But I am a little suspect and very careful, right? So here's a few of the suggestions and recommendations from the FDA and the CDC. They say buy whole heads of lettuce because you can peel the outer pieces, right? Also discard those outer leaves that you do if you're doing that, or also if you're doing these things like peeling. You also want to peel your potatoes, peel your carrots, all of that stuff. And then if you can cook your vegetables, that is your best case scenario because that will kill the parasite.
All right. How did the produce get contaminated in the first place? This is the big question here.
Yeah, human feces. So basically poop. So we're talking about cleanliness. It could be out in the farm. It could be water runoff from a lot of rain. It could be people not washing their hands. At this point, they really don't know. It's the growing, the harvesting process as well. And here's what's really interesting. Some of the past outbreaks of Cyclospora have included raspberries, basil, and salad mixes. So those are some of the things, and cilantro as well, that I'm staying away from. That's just because that was past outbreaks.
Okay. Yeah. And I think a lot of people are wondering, because they've been eating produce, how will they know if they have the Cyclospora?
Okay. Prolonged watery diarrhea, fatigue, stomach cramps. And if you're feeling any of those, ask your doctor to test for Cyclospora. And then if it is positive, report it to your state health department immediately.
Okay. We know there are a lot of steps, as you mentioned. Yeah. Why don't we know at this point what the source is? Why can't we figure this out?
It is very difficult to trace at this point for anything, because this is not like Listeria E. coli. This is a parasite, right? And also, symptoms can take up to a week or more to actually feel, so you forget what you ate, right? And this parasite can live in your gut for months. So you may have it, and then you get sick, and then it goes away, and then it comes back. And here's the one thing. It is not transmitted from humans to humans. So if I have it, I can't give it to you.
Okay, that's good to know. All right, talk about timing, Susan, because your latest episode on Susan Makes Sense, which just dropped today, is about food safety, right? Can you tell us about more what we can expect here in your episode?
Of course. So this was about recalls and is our food safe? And I interviewed a mom who lost her little boy to E. coli. She fed him a hamburger, and literally 12 days later, he died. And talking about her and what she's done since his death, and what she wants for changes. And also, I spoke to someone who used to work in the FDA, who used to do recalls and outbreaks and was in front of that. What goes on when things like this happen? He tells us about this. It's an eye-opening episode that you definitely don't want to miss.
Very important information. Susan, thanks so much. To watch Susan's full episode of Susan Makes Sense, scan the QR code on your screen. Thank you, Susan.
Of course.
Still ahead on the News 4 Rundown, the young Washington Wizards are red hot to start Summer League. We're hearing from a second-year player who's playing lights out while leading this year's rookies. But first, let's check in with Storm Team 4 Chief Meteorologist Doug Kammerer.
It was a beautiful day out there on our Monday. High temperature, 86 degrees, a little bit below average, and below average across much of the Mid-Atlantic. But intense heat moving back in across the area, feeling well over 100 degrees. I'll show you when that heat moves in, coming up in just a minute.
I'm Adam Tuss in the district. Hey, will autonomous vehicles, self-driving taxis, take the place of human drivers? Coming up next, I'm going to tell you about a marathon meeting that happened at the D.C. Council today and some spirited discussion about it. That's up next.
Happening now in Loudoun County, a school board meeting focused on a proposal that, if approved, would build a giant power pole in a local woman's backyard and run high voltage transmission through her neighborhood along neighboring school property. The county school system has to approve the deal. Northern Virginia Bureau reporter Drew Wilder is at that meeting and will bring us the latest developments on News 4 at 11. A marathon meeting has been going on today about self-driving taxis in D.C. The leaders of some of the biggest companies in the autonomous vehicle world were at the Wilson Building for a hearing. News 4 transportation reporter Adam Tuss has some of the main takeaways tonight.
Well, frankly, seems like there's a lot of questions still to answer about these vehicles and when they're going to be picking up passengers here on the streets of the district. This marathon meeting featured everything from talk about jobs to equality and even service for the disabled community. While leaders from self-driving taxi service Waymo sat down before the D.C. Council in chambers, protests outside on the steps of the Wilson Building, with union members saying many human drivers could be about to lose their jobs if autonomous vehicles get the green light in D.C.
We're talking about Uber and Lyft drivers, taxi drivers, truck drivers, and transit workers. And we think that's unfair.
Now, the issue of what jobs could change and wages earned, a major focus of this hearing. Leaders from Uber, Lyft, and Tesla also showing up to explain how this new self-driving service would impact them. Waymo staff taking issue with some of them.
If we want to talk about driver earnings, I think we would be remiss if we did not point out the fact that there are companies seated at this table today who control how much earnings drivers take home. And we have seen reports as of recent that these companies are taking nearly 40% of those earnings.
Uber leaders answering back.
One AV takes the work of 4 drivers, And that's real.
Now, Waymo says it's about to build new maintenance facilities to take care of their vehicles in wards 5 and 7. And the company says that would bring hundreds of jobs to this area. They also say they've now driven 300,000 miles in the district during 2 years of testing, and they're ready to move forward with service. Remember, Waymo is already in operation in 11 other cities like LA and Phoenix.
I think that every city likes to ask this question about, well, our city is so unique. How could you possibly have adapted here? Listen, I don't want to put DC down. There are, of course, very unique things here. Spontaneous motorcades, significant physical security infrastructure. But the reality is that the Waymo driver is proven to be generalizable in a number of urban environments.
Now, DC leaders have made it clear Waymo has to be equitable and provide all 8 wards in the district with the same level of service. It cannot discriminate. The council also says more improvements are needed to make these vehicles more accessible, for instance, for riders with wheelchairs. A final vote on self-driving taxis in D.C. is expected this fall. Waymo officials also made the point that they believe they are cutting down on a significant number of serious crashes and collisions here on our streets. Back to you.
What a nice way to start the work week, Doug Kammerer.
It really was quite nice. I mean, temperatures in the mid-80s today, a little below average, but as I've been telling you all day, that heat is moving in, and it's coming in pretty quickly here, but not tomorrow, although it will get a little bit hotter out there right now. A gorgeous evening. Wow, it has been fantastic all afternoon. Nothing but sunshine out there across our region. High temperature of 86 now, down to 84. But look at the heat index. It actually is lower than the actual temperature as a result of some low dew points and dry air. And that's good news. We're not going to see nearly as much humidity this time around as we did the last heat wave. 82 degrees in Gaithersburg right now, 84 Laurel, 84 as well in Culpeper, 83 Martinsburg. So gorgeous evening. Nothing on the radar picture. Now, we've seen a lot of rain over the past couple of days. Some locations yesterday picking up 1, 2, 3 inches of rain, especially in our southern zones. I had a pretty good downpour in my house for like 15 minutes, but boy, it was coming down. Nothing like that today, and we're actually going to stay dry for the rest of the week. We've got rain to our south. That rain will stay there. It's the same system that brought us the rain yesterday, just sitting down there. Now, for us, the heat is really building in the middle part of the country. You can see that big heat ridge working its way all the way up into Canada. Temperatures into the 90s and 100s, all the way up toward the plains. Now, that heat is moving our direction, and will continue to do so on Wednesday, continue to be here during the day on Thursday. The big difference here, though, is the ridge never really gets over us. We continue with this northwest flow. That actually keeps us a little bit lower in the way of humidity. So we're not going to see, even though we get to triple digits, I don't think we're going to see that heat index over 105. So near 100 degrees both Wednesday and Thursday. Below records, though. Heat index near 105. So we could see a heat advisory. Last time we saw an extreme heat warning. We won't see that this time. And staying dry all week. Severe storms for the weekend. Yeah, it's possible, especially on Saturday. So let's talk about it as we make our way through the night tonight into tomorrow morning, starting off on a pretty good note. Feeling like temperatures in the upper 60s to low 70s during the afternoon. Not much humidity. So I'm going for a high of 92, feeling like 93. So it's going to get warmer for sure. And you're going to notice a difference tomorrow. It is going to be hotter, but Wednesday is really the day. Look at this. Starting off at 85 during the day in the city in the morning, and then during the afternoon, there's your hundreds. There's your triple digits, going for a high of about 106, heat index rather, of 106. High temperature of 101. 100 on Thursday, 98 on Friday. Once again, dry. The chance of storms really moves in for the weekend, both Saturday and Sunday. Good chance for severe weather, and then we'll see scattered storms for much of next week. No real washouts, so don't worry about that. And it does bring those temperatures back down. But once again, we'll continue to keep you posted on that dangerous heat moving our way.
The Wizards are now 2-0 in Summer League play as #1 pick A.J. Dubonsa continues to impress. But he's not the only Wizard shining on the court. How about 32 points from second-year player Will Riley last night? What a show. Our J.P. Finley caught up with Will about his game and what his new teammate Dubonsa brings to the Wiz.
Really excited to talk to Will Riley, second-year forward for the Wizards, especially coming off the 32-point game against the Kings. What's up, man? How's Vegas treating you?
It's been good, the last few games we got the win, so it's been good.
What are the vibes with the team right now? I mean, through 2 games in Summer League, you guys look like you're absolutely on fire. How much fun are you guys having?
Yeah, we're having a lot of fun, It feels good to win. It feels good to come out here and compete. And yeah, super high hopes for next year, and it's going to be a really fun year.
What's it like being a second-year guy at Summer League? Like, you see these rookies that are there with you guys, and you have that bit of experience on top of it. Do you offer advice or just how to get through it?
Yeah, of course, like since I've experienced this from last year, I just tell them what to expect and stuff like that. And I've really tried to take on like a leadership role this year for this team, and it's definitely helped improve my game, for sure.
So obviously now you guys add A.J. Debonta into the mix, the #1 overall pick. What's he like in the locker room? What's he like as a guy? How has that gone so far?
Yeah, he's like the first overall pick that doesn't really act like a first overall pick. He's a very humble guy, great human, which I feel like speaks volumes to who he is as a person.
What do you think about his game?
I mean, everybody knows his game. He's a amazing player. Can get to the basket anytime he wants. Super athletic. Yeah.
All right, Will, I did check you out on Instagram at WillieJBall7. You're not the biggest poster, but you did post a story. Is that you as a little boy? What's going on here?
Yeah, that was me. I don't really remember where it was, but yeah, that was me as a little kid.
What prompted you posting it? Just thought it was funny or something?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Just me imagining myself in the future. I feel like this is everything that I wanted. So, I feel like it was cool to post that.
Well, Will, I really appreciate it, man. Thank you so much for making some time for us. Good luck out there. We'll be watching. It's been a blast watching you guys in the Summer League.
Thank you for having me.
Listen, they're making us hopeful for the new season. Riley and the Wizards are back in Summer League action tomorrow night against the Chicago Bulls. All right, stick around. News 4 Rundown will be right back after this break. She has 8 arms, can recognize certain people, and has quite an opinion when it comes to her food. The newest addition to the National Aquarium in Baltimore is making quite a splash. Jennifer Franciotti introduces us to Tilly the octopus.
From this side of the tank, I've seen it all.
If you're a fan of the popular Netflix movie Remarkably Bright Creatures, then you will certainly appreciate the newest addition to the National Aquarium in Baltimore.
She's cool. She's so engaging.
Octillery, or Tilly for short, is named after a Pokemon character. And just like Marcellus the octopus in the movie, she is a giant Pacific octopus, the largest known species. And she's incredibly intelligent, says aquarist Tom Studer.
Tilly here is kind of unique as animals we've had before. She's actually responded visually to different people.
But unlike Marcellus, she can't escape to go looking for a midnight snack. The aquarium has latched doors that go up to the ceiling to prevent any extracurricular activities.
So there's no gaps for her to get out. The only hard part of her entire body is her beak, which is probably an inch, between an inch and a half in size. And so she can get her entire body through anything smaller than that.
Tilly weighs about 26 pounds, and she eats a lot and has a pretty varied diet.
We have our squid, we have shrimp with the heads on, because she does like the heads. She does not like clam.
But as a new Baltimorean, she does like crabs.
She'll break it open. This is a great natural enrichment puzzle for her.
Tilly can change color to blend in and even change the texture and shape of her body to mimic her surroundings. And as a giant Pacific octopus, can live up to 3 to 4 years in captivity.
They can get very, very large, over 20 feet long.
That was Jennifer Franciotti reporting. How incredible is that? It's a good thing she moved to Baltimore because she likes crabs, so that makes sense. And the fact that she is 26 pounds but can get through something that's only an inch wide is pretty incredible. Something to keep in mind here, octopus are sensitive to light and sound. You probably saw those signs, no flash photographs, and they prefer peace and quiet. Hope she has a wonderful life there at the Baltimore Aquarium. A great spot to visit if you haven't been already. And that is going to do it for the News 4 Rundown for this Monday night. Be sure to join us tonight for News 4 at 11. For now, I'm Un Yang. Thanks for joining us and have a great night.